Welcome, Parag.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead, introduce yourself, and what is this session all about?
Thank you. I'll keep it very short because we are already overshooting some time and people are anxious to make the most of their time learning about the most hot topic in the industry. So my name is Parag and I have close to 26 years spent in this industry. I keep hearing myself. Somebody, probably there's some echo somewhere.
Oh, we hear you perfectly fine. I'll mute myself.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And last 18 years of my professional career I've spent in a single organization. So I'm part of Gateway group of companies that I joined as a developer back in October 2006. So I'll be turning an adult in a couple of months in the same organization. And I will officially have voting rights if I say so. But yeah, it's my home ground, I can say, because I grew from a developer to what I am right now. I was a JavaScript developer and then turned into ActionScript. I'm not sure if any one of you have even heard about ActionScript. It was a buzz that time. If any one of you have heard about Flash, a platform which is dead, courtesy Steve Jobs, but it's no longer there. But there was a time when it was such a hot topic on net, and I grew my interest in ActionScript. It was a natural extension because of my inclination towards JavaScript. I spent some time into the development, and then my calling was to get more into delivery management and leadership roles. So the path changed a bit, and then I grew up as more as a leader because I enjoyed doing project management. I enjoyed leading people and getting things done. So from that point onwards, I've continued my journey on the leadership side. Currently, I'm working as a head of software engineering process group in the organization, and as one of the key areas in that is agile transformation, agile coaching, and scrum training for my organization, for my customer organization, which I do within that, as well as I'm independently also conducting agile coaching, scrum training, and Jira and Confluence training as well. I am an ardent Atlassian follower, lover, whatever you say. I am a better half. I've been using Atlassian products for close to 10 years, and uh, I started using Jira when it was just a bug management. So now you can imagine those early days, and that's why they still carry the legacy of calling everything as issue. It started way back when they had this bug management, which they actually created this software for logging the defects of another software that these guys had created that time. And they never knew that Jira would turn out to be such a massive suite in its own. So that's my brief introduction. I am an Atlassian certified org admin. I do hold professional Scrum Master as well as certified Agile Coach credentials. And I love, for me, agility is more about keeping a child within alive. And that's what I continue pursuing. As part of today's topic, this is no longer a buzzword. I think AI is something which has taken everybody by storm. It's disrupting things like anything, left, right, north, south, and we all are, whether we like or not, are being bombarded with a lot of AI stuff all around. And Atlassian was not behind as well. So the topic for today is to know about Atlassian Intelligence, and I'm very happy that they didn't call it artificial intelligence features in Jira. I know somehow that acronym AI just went so well with Atlassian. They could just call it AI and still mean it Atlassian Intelligence and not artificial intelligence, right? Because it's little more than artificial intelligence if you talk about how Atlassian has implemented that. Pretty nifty way, pretty solid base that they have created. I think they started rolling this out late last year. I was part of their beta users also. So that is how I had my, I had the privilege to be among those first to get the first-hand experience of intelligence features, and I think they made it very, very official in the recently concluded Team 24. Some of you may have been there. I know that you had been there. So uh, lovely announcements during those events, and I think now they are taking this a notch higher. They've spent good amount of time. There are few features which are still in beta. Just for you to know, it's not just Jira. Jira software, by the way, is now being called Jira, just so that you know they've started consolidating, and Jira software was just making things a little more complicated. So they've renamed it to Jira, uh, what it used to be long back. So that's how we knew Jira. initially until Jira Service Management, Work Management, and things like started getting complicated. So Jira also uses it. Jira Service Management has it. Confluence has it. Trello and Bitbucket. All of this have some part of Atlassian Intelligence built in. And I think they are coming up with this newer platforms, which we all know, which was announced during Team 24. We are all looking forward how that shapes up the way of working for all of us. But for today, we'll mostly focus on how Atlassian Intelligence can help us do various things much better way within Jira. I'm just assuming that some of you or most of you have been in some capacity been using Jira. Is there anybody who has never had any encounter with Jira yet?
We can share on chat if we are using it.
Or rather not using it, because I just expect that number of count will be low of people who are not using it. So only those who are not using it will learn something, but you may not be able to relate completely in case if you're not day to day into Jira. But then you'll start loving it, I'm sure. All right, so there's no PowerPoints today. This is all about show and tell, and I prefer that way whenever I'm presenting something happening on the screen. I prefer to show it by doing it so that you get an idea. I have prepared something, and I would love to start. Let me share the
Parag,
screen.
just a quick question. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
no problem.
So we're talking about the Atlassian Intelligence, and so is this going to be specific to, or today's conversation is going to be specific to like the cloud version, data center, or
Yeah, sure. Good. I'm glad that you asked that question. So today's session will focus on the cloud version. And just to clarify,
okay?
Atlassian Intelligence is by default activated now for premium and enterprise
Hmm.
flavors.
Okay,
Uh, until Team 24, it was like you had to activate that through settings. But now, if you are on a premium or an enterprise plan, it is by default activated for you.
okay. Thank you, thank you.
All right. Now this is going to take me some time. Let me just see which one do I need to share. Hold on, there's so many things. I need to shut a few windows. Just give me one sec, guys, just so that I remove the clutter out of the way.
No worries. Take your time. We don't want to watch your secret screens and anything that you don't want.
Well, it's more confusing rather than getting a peek into it. So it's better that I don't show them.
No, I mean to say it can be official confidential data as well. I didn't mean anything else. So.
Yeah. Okay. Now let me see if I get to see it. This is. Aha! I get it. I have it beamed on another monitor so that I get to see it in a larger screen, and at the same time I can look at the meeting window as well. But now you tell me if you see the screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
All clear? Super. Cool. I have just prepared some data so that you know we can utilize that while demonstrating stuff. I've created two projects for us: e-commerce app and poker game. Just so that majority of my professional career in last 18 years has revolved around online gaming, e-learning, healthcare, and retail in terms of domains. I've worked with different domains as well, but these four are the large ones. So that's why you see poker game. I'm a hardcore fan of poker. I'm not a good player though. Someday I will be. Anyway, so let's see first. So apart from these two projects, I've also created four users for us. Now here I'm going to tell you a little secret as well. How many times you have felt frustrated that you want to play around in Jira, but you need to play around in Jira, you need different users, you need test data, and for different users, you always end up creating emails, and then you say, yeah, how many email addresses will I end up subscribing, even if it is a free plan, for example. Even if you want to play around with the free tier, you still need accounts, right? So how many times have you felt that frustration that how many email address do I end up creating just to get a flavor of working around in Jira? If I tell you that you can just have one email address and can still have 10 Jira accounts, how would it feel? Nice, of course, right? So that's a little secret that Atlassian never tells openly, right? And sorry for me breaking it here, but here you see I've created 4 users. Now here you see something interesting here. This is what I am at this moment for this account. You see several other people. So we have Maya and another Parag who are kind of developers. We've got Rishi who is a taster. Now you see something here. You can see that I had one email address that I had used for one user.
Ah,
Now, if you just apply plus, and after that, you whatever you want, test one, test two, test three, use the same email address, you'll get all notifications on the same email address. It will still be treated as a separate account. So no longer limited. If you have just one single email address, you can still create 10 accounts with that. But please don't abuse this. I don't want Atlassian to blame me on this webinar, telling this trick and then letting people hit their cloud environment with all this same person having 10 different accounts. Use it so that you can utilize and play around within Jira in a nicer way, rather than creating a bunch of redundant email addresses. So it's quite efficient that way. So that's how I've created a couple of them, which are using the same email address, but with a suffix of plus and test one, test two, whatever you want to keep. We are going to use this for users in our journey. Let's come back to this. So as I said that by default, it's always activated, but just in case for some of you, if you don't see Atlassian Intelligence activated despite of being on premium and or enterprise plan, you can always go to settings when you are into the admin hub. That's what they call it, right? So within admin hub, when you got to be org admin, you go to settings, and in that you have Atlassian Intelligence. All the products that you have, which qualify to be having Atlassian Intelligence, you'll see they are already added. And just in case for any glitch, if it's not there, you'll always have an option to uh, select products and add them here as well. Just in case if you remove any of this, you can do that as well. So just a quick note of that. Anyways, let's come back to this. Okay, let's jump right into the project. E-commerce app is what we need to get into, right? All right, perfect. A screen that we all love, right? Active Sprint. How many of you are Scrum Masters, or you're operating within a Scrum framework, being a developer or being a part of the Scrum team, basically? Practically all of you, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. I'm not keeping an eye on the chat though, but I assume that many of you have been quite familiar with this screen.
yes, I am checking chat, and yes, they are responding to you.
They are responding. Okay, perfect. Now let's first understand the scope of Atlassian Intelligence within Jira. So 4 main areas. It's ever expanding, but at this moment, they have the full-blown rollout is in 4 areas. One is create content. Another is they call it generate content. Everything is generative nowadays. Then you have transform content. Then you have issue search, which is a major area. And the fourth is, which is very interesting as well, automation. Okay, until Team 24, automation was not there. They brought in automation just before then, and then from that point onwards, automation is also included. Although it's not full blown implementation of Atlassian Intelligence within that, but it's still uh, quite deep. So we are going to look at example of all 4 areas and how to use them. Let's head to our backlog. Let's first focus on the content part. So both generate as well as transform. Let's head on to backlog. Now let's understand the context. So who will need to generate the content generally in the backlog? Any thoughts? Who would generally? So I have, you can see some interesting stuff here. I'll keep the epic panel hidden for now. So you've got sprint 2 here, which means sprint 1 is already ended, is there and was ended. I've intentionally done that. And then there are a bunch of issues in sprint 2, which is running sprint. And then I have a bunch of issues in the backlog as well. Yeah? So who owns product backlog? Let's check your Scrum knowledge. Who owns product backlog?
PO.
Fantastic. Right. So PO owns, which means that the accountability is product owner. However, as far as populating the content in the product backlog is concerned, Anybody within the Scrum team can do it and should do it. So it is not uncommon for Scrum teams to have developers write user stories, for Scrum masters to write user stories, for business to write user stories, testers write user stories. The final accountability of keeping it in check and keeping it prioritized and ensuring what goes first, what goes next, and what probably may be discarded. That accountability lies with product owner. So the ownership is product owner, but responsibility can be anybody within the Scrum team. Okay. So let's talk about the content. So let's jump into this backlog, some of these areas. So let's first talk about transform content. Now let's say you see this one, okay? Mm, Review order summary. This is a pretty known format to all of us. As a user, I want to do something so that I can do it. So it's a nice, simple description. And along with that, it has got some acceptance criteria. Fair enough. Just like that, we have several other stories, as you can see, all in the pretty much in the same format. But as I see in the order confirmation, you can see that it only has the description, doesn't have the acceptance criteria. That's intentional. So as a product owner, let's say if I want to first get some help from Atlassian Intelligence, I'm hearing some noise.
I
Brijesh,
think
if you
somebody
could
joined
mute
and
yourself. Some lovely
yeah,
noises.
I
Okay,
have
perfect.
muted him. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Cool. So as a product owner, I may require some assistance in terms of AI telling me, and I may have some idea, but I may not be very efficient putting it into words. So let's say this is an e-commerce app, and I want to get some help on what kind of a story should I write for an FAQ page. It doesn't exist at this point. Right? So we all know where do we write the content from. So let's start with generate content instead of transform. So let's say I click on create. Of course, I choose skip story. Summary, you can write anything. Let's say I will write something like this. Why is it not coming up? Okay, let's see FAQ page. Now this is where the magic starts happening. When you are into the description, there are two ways for you to access Atlassian Intelligence in this description area. Either you type /AI, which will automatically prompt it to bring in the AI context, or you can see this nice little button over here, which is your writing assistant. Either of them will do the trick, right? So let me see if I can, oops, forgot slash. So as soon as I do that, you can see the first one, AI Atlassian Intelligence, is the selected one. I press enter. Now suddenly you will see when I press enter, there are a lot of things that it is telling me. Either I can just write something and say brainstorm about it. So I may not, as a product owner, I may want to create a placeholder for discussing it with my teams and brainstorm about some idea that I have. It hasn't taken a shape of a user story yet. It is still at a brainstorming level. I can capture those brainstorming ideas by saying brainstorm and writing what I want to brainstorm about. But let's keep it later. For now, my context is I know that I want to write a user story for an FAQ page. I can write something like this. Uh, Write a user story for FAQ. Yes, there's slight delay. I can also mention the format in, and Atlassian Intelligence is smart enough to adhere to that. Hmm. And I can also say along with acceptance criteria, as to an extent that I can also tell it to create a bulleted list instead of a numbered list. If you don't say anything, it will by default create numbered list, but I prefer to keep it bulleted list because a numbered list always means chronology, which means that first has to be met first, second has to be met after that. So acceptance criteria is a holistic criteria rather than a numbered checklist. So I always prefer to have it as a bulleted list. If I don't need to write it, it will automatically create a numbered list. But anyways, for now, I'll say what it does. Let me press enter. Let me see if I can scroll this down. Yep. So there you go. It gives me something as a user. I can access something. It also gives me acceptance criteria. Of course, internally it uses the large language models and OpenAI that we are all aware of, that platforms like ChatGPT and many other are using. And so, which means that I can ask it to retry. Right? If I'm not pleased with this, I can always say retry. Let's see what it does. It might come up with something different this time. Right, so it'll keep on doing this based on the knowledge base that it has gathered. The way they have so obviously they have their own custom LLM that they have trained with so much of user data accumulated over all these years, and so they know that what could be the different variations of a specific function that user may require. Either I can copy it and put it somewhere, or if I'm pleased with this, I can simply say insert. So this is one very easy, smart way as a product owner. I just want a heads up so that I can continue building on top of this, and I have something to start with rather than starting with a blank canvas. So this is one thing. Let's say we keep it and we create it. So that was more about creating content. I'll quickly show you that how we'll not create it, but we'll still see that how a brainstorm idea will come up. So let's hit create again. Mm, okay, I'll say checkout. There is a story that already exists around this, but I don't want to write a story yet. So I will say AI, and then I'll say brainstorm. Then I'll say different ways, anything that I want to brainstorm about to develop a checkout page and give some context. If you, the more the better the context that you give, the better Atlassian intelligence will reciprocate. So if you just leave it open, the chances are that its scope becomes wider and may give something which is not expected, or it's probably not relevant for your case. So if you can give better context, it'll always return you a better result. So here I'll give, let's say, checkout page for an e-commerce app. Okay, and let's see what it says. So it gives me a few ideas, right? I can create a custom issue type called brainstorm and just put all of this under brainstorm. It could then be taken up as a spike, as a discussion within the team during refinement and other sessions. And I already have some points that I can use for that discussion, right? So this is about creating a content from scratch, whether it is a user story. You could also, if you already have a user story, but you don't have an acceptance criteria, as we just saw in one of the other example. So let's discard this issue. Which one was that? I think it was order confirmation, right? So here I have, I'll keep it in this side context. So I just have this one. So let's say now we are talking about both generating and transforming sort of combined, because I already have some content, right? So I select this content. Now this time I can't press slash AI because that will replace this text, right? So please be sure that you press this button in those cases. Now you suddenly see when you have something selected, that means you have the context. It suddenly gives you many more options, as you can see here. Okay, so for what I want to do at this moment is none of this. In that case, you can always use this free form prompt. I'll simply say, for this user story, give me acceptance. Aha. Okay, I'll have to be criteria as bulleted list. Let's see. So it will analyze what I have selected, and it will just reiterate that user story here so that we can be sure that it has actually used the same thing. And you can see that it has automatically given me a list of acceptance criteria. I already have a great list now here, right? All I can do is that I don't want to replace this. If I wanted to replace, I could simply say replace, but I don't want to lose the context of what I had written. I can always say insert below. So in that case, as you can see, it will retain what I already had, and then I can simply remove this. I don't need this one, and you're done. Okay, how many of them qualifies to be acceptance criteria according to your specific use case? You may like to amend few, you may like to remove few, you may like to add few more, but you at least have a start point. And this is based on, as I said, a huge amount of data that they've gathered all this year. So chances are this will be at least 60 to 70% quite near to what you really want to do. And you will, rather than thinking about all 100%, you'll already have 60, 70% drafted for you. And you'll have to just worry about making minor modifications and additions to make it 100%. Make sense? Any questions, anyone so far? Yep. Just keep looking at the chat, Dipti, and let me know if I need to answer anything in between. Yeah? Otherwise, I'll continue in the flow.
You actually can go in the monologue, to be very honest, because
Perfect.
people are on mute and they will not be interfering in between. Also, I am checking chat. So if something comes up, yeah, because then otherwise it breaks the flow.
But yeah, absolutely. I agree with your point. So I'll go. All right. So when we talk about generate content, you use it in the description area to generate brainstorming ideas, to generate user stories. You want to generate any other ideas that you want. You practically do it in description. When it comes to transformation, there are two areas where it helps you. One is obviously, as we just now saw, that we can transform the content which is there in the description field. How do you do that? Now, let's say we have this one, very nice. This one qualifies to be opened up in its own tab. So let's just wait and open this in its own tab. Cool. So what's your first, don't worry about the comments here. What's your first impression about this user story? It's quite long, right? It's typically not written such long. It has to be little ambig. It doesn't have to be too long to encompass so many things. Traditionally and in a more expected way, every user story should cater to only one and one function, ideally, because then it becomes, it fulfills invest criteria also and becomes a bit more handleable and manageable by the team. But here the case is different. Okay, here, as you can see, this is such a long one. So what you need to do is here, you already have content. You don't need to create the content. I select this, and there are several things that I can do. First of all, before going on to this route, okay, I as a product owner, I come to this and I see that already some people have put in some comments. Somebody may have written this story, and product owner has put some comments. Now, what do you think about these comments? Before we transform this content, let's look at this comment. So the first one, going from the bottoms up, you see this is the kind of language that it uses. Okay, probably it's let's see if I click on edit, you will probably see there are some typos as well. So this is very informal, this is very unprofessional, and written in a format which is not very pleasing. It tries to tell that this user story is very long, okay, and it needs to be chopped off. But the language in which it is told, it's not quite professional. So if I'm a user, I want to say something, but I'm probably lacking the right vocab for that or the right tone for that. I may write something like this, but I want to actually don't want to communicate in this fashion. Okay, what I can do is that obviously I can use to correct my spelling to begin with. So let's select this comment. If I hit this, if you come down, fix spelling and grammar, one click and it's done, right? So now you can see those typos are taken care of. I'll simply replace the content. So now it's a fresh content. I select it again. Now I want to change the tone. So if I go here, you see in the options, there are several things. If I wanted to summarize this, if I wanted to make shorter, most importantly, if I wanted to change the tone to professional, okay, let's see what happens. Now you see it'll all start making a bit more sense. It talks about the same context, but in a much more professional way. Okay, so anybody reading this comment will get an idea what the person is trying to communicate. So let's replace this. Perfect, and let me save this comment. So this saves the day for all those who are, whose mindset is quite casual, but that's not what they mean. So what they want to communicate is the real issue in this user story. They have their own way of communicating, which they can amend by just using these prompts. Okay, writing in their own way and then just letting the Atlassian intelligence to take care of converting that into a professional tone. Similarly, a comment above, when you see this one, it starts the way it starts. It says, "All right, let's be blunt." So that's so. What is it lacking? This is not empathetic, right? So you'll come across a lot of comments, a lot of users who are not good in communicating empathetically. They can also utilize Atlassian intelligence once they write the way they want it to write. Can always change the tone to empathetic. Okay, and just because we are here, you can always look at the other ways also. Change the tone to casual, neutral, educational, depending on the need of the change that you want to bring in your communication. Yeah. Sometimes you have written something, but you want to present it to business. Now, for business, it needs to be a little more educational because they may not be well versed with your mumbo jumbo of user stories and acceptance criteria and whatnot. So, for them, it might make sense to change the comment here or the description in the user story to be more educational. So, you can always change the tone to that as well. For now, if I change this to empathetic, sometimes comes with this, but that's okay. You can always remove that. It's still growing, right? So let's give that leeway. So I can change that. I can, of course, as I said, that as many times as you want it to retry, you just keep on doing it, and every time it will come up with some variation. And until you are pleased, you can keep doing that. This is much better. See, it says, let's try to understand the situation better. So let's say I replace this. But now the crux of the matter is that both of these comments mention about something to be done with this user story. What it means is that it's basically a combination of multiple stories. Now, instead of dashboard as a story, looking at this, it makes more sense for dashboard to be an epic or a parent, as they call it now, and have multiple user stories crafted from this that can be put under that parent, right? You can do that with just a little prompt. Select this. You go to, for example, write something like this. Mm, Draft multiple user stories mm, from this long story, and let's make it a little more interesting along with. Okay, let's see. I have not learned this prompt by heart, so I'm also trying. Let's hope it turns out to be good. So now you can see what it has done is that it has just divided this long one into 8 user stories. Okay, it has captured the essence from that long paragraph, and it identified that there are actually multiple functions that you are trying to achieve within that, and it has smartly divided that across multiple user stories. And as I said, that now you can copy this and keep it somewhere and start creating new stories. You can insert below or you can replace the content above. It's up to you, entirely up to you. Hmm? So for now, I'll cancel this. Each of this having their own acceptance criteria as well. And be mindful that I can still, once it already exists as a content, I can still select a user story and can say that I want more acceptance criteria in that. It will still identify more into that and will give you that. Yeah? So let's say, for example, we'll cancel this. So this was more from the product owners context or people who are actually populating the content, and then after that they want to transform it. So either they want to transform an existing content or they want to generate and then transform content. Now let's talk from the poor developers perspective, right? So they have a user story, and the product owner discusses this during either the refinement session or during the sprint planning session, and they start discussing it. So what is it that you should usually be doing at sprint planning, apart from capacity, apart from figuring out that what stories will make sense to go in your sprint goal? Along with that, what will developers primarily focus on during sprint planning? They'll focus on the how part of it, right? So according to Scrum, a sprint backlog is your now plus how, which means that what you are taking in the immediate iteration. So that's one thing. And how are you planning to achieve that? So that's where developers come into picture. Now, when developers look at this story, obviously they'll have some discussion. If they want to have a starter, just so that they don't have to spend a lot of time reinventing something, you can always select this right like that, and you can ask Atlassian Intelligence, what is this? Okay, write relevant subtasks. That's how developers work exist in the stories, right? And we don't want to stop it there, because our team is composed of, although they are all called developers as a title, but it might be composed of developers, people who are engineers, as well as people who are testing it. So we say that write relevant subtasks, okay, keep it plural, for this user story, and also provide test cases. For QA is not mandatory. As long as you write test cases, you'll understand. Let's see what it does. So let us see what it is. Okay, you have. I want to review my order summary before making a purchase so that I can verify the details. Right? That's my primary user story. And what it's trying to say is that, okay, design the checkout page layout, develop the functionality to display item details. All of them seems relevant to me as far as order summary page is concerned. Obviously, you need to review this to accept it, amend it as needed, but at least you have a start point. As a group of developers, you then need to start thinking about which one of this already makes sense so that you don't have to spend time on that, and which are the ones that need to be added or removed or modified. At the same time, you have the test cases ready for them. What testers can do is just take them from here, and whatever tool you're using, if you're using Zephyr or any other third-party tool, wherever you are maintaining your test cases, they can just get this plugged in. Yeah. I can keep this inserted below so that it remains within the context of this story until this, because Atlassian Intelligence is yet not come to that level where it will actually create those subtasks also. So you'll have to do that manually, at least for now. But at least you have these titles, and if developers agree after any modifications, they can just create the child issues from this right away. And then testers can pick those items and create their test case. Once done, this can be removed from here.
Hey, Parag, quick question. Sorry,
Sure.
I did raise my hand, but sorry to
No, I
interrupt
do
you.
see your hand. Go ahead.
Okay, so you sometime back you did apply the same thing in, let's say, probably description or acceptance criteria, where you would be able to break down all the stories, bigger stories, into the smaller chunks, right?
Yes. Yes.
So still, it is a manual effort. I mean, it will give you the breakup, but you have to create the task or the
That's true.
story separately. Okay.
That's true. The context is limited to two areas: generate content and transform content. As far as creating issues or editing issues are concerned, that is still a manual task.
Okay. All
Days
right.
are not far when it start creating those also, but I think it's a
Mhm.
good start for them. They're still at a quite a primary level in doing this.
Right.
But what it
Also,
does right now is awesome. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's efficiency. It's quite a big efficiency movement that probably the product owners would be able to see. Like they don't have to really spend much time on that. Now, quick question on I think sometime back, prior to that, breaking down the bigger stories to the small one. I think you also showcase the comment sections, right? Which
yeah,
comments making more sense or not. I mean, I have a different perspective, and I would like to share. Probably, others can also chime in. Let's say, as a product or as an engineer, I know that's probably intelligence is giving like much more probably sensible way of writing it. But isn't it that whatever language that, let's say, developer is providing any feedback, or lead is providing any feedback, or leaving a comment for their, let's say, peer developer, wouldn't it be a better idea to have or get the feedback in their own language rather
it
than
is. So this is
amending?
not for me to change the tone for
Hmm.
somebody else. This is to be
Okay.
used me as an individual. I may
Hmm.
prefer to write in the way I feel most comfortable, but at the
Hmm.
same time, I may know that probably I have a lack of professional vocab. So I may write
Hmm.
it in my own language so that it doesn't limit my flow. But at the same time, once I do that, I can use this Atlassian intelligence to change the tone. So it's for me to do modifications of my own content. The intention, although people may use
Mm.
it for that,
Okay.
but the intention is not that somebody else changes what somebody else was saying, because
Okay. Got it.
then it would mislead.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Got it. I think that answers. Thank you.
Sure. Good run, Vijay. I think you have raised your hand. If it could wait, if it is in the context of what we are discussing right away, maybe you can say something, or we can address your question later. Whatever, whatever you prefer. Okay, I think later. Now let's go back quickly, finishing this generate and transform content on the dashboard. We had those comments, right? So when you have a lot of comments and a lot of activities within a story, there's also one nice feature which is coming up as beta. You see something, it says summarize the comments in this issue. So you may have so many comments within a story as the work progresses or while the brainstorming is happening, and you want to get a gist of, rather than reading through all of them, you just want to get a gist of what people are saying. You could always click on this. It will tell you what is the collective generalized content of those comments. You can just read this.
This is interesting.
Yeah. See, it says the product owner suggests. It also figures out who had put the comment. So that's really nice. That's the
Yeah.
name of the user in this case.
And this will be added as a comment,
This is
like
only visible to me.
just a visibility. Okay.
Yeah.
If
So
you
this
would like
is
to, okay, got it.
anybody as an individual. I don't want to go through all the comments. I just want to get an essence of what everybody collectively is trying to say, and then I can obviously copy this, keep it somewhere. Wherever you're using Atlassian Intelligence, you will see those two thumbs up, thumbs down. It's Atlassian's way of letting you give thumbs up, thumbs down, so that they know whether they are doing it right or they need some improvement. So keep using them. If you like it, you can always thumbs up. That will tell them that it was done rightly, and probably that's the direction they should work more on. And thumbs down will let them know that probably something's wrong, and they should think of revising or improving it further. Perfect. So moving on, we're done with creating and generating and transforming content. Let's head over to the next area, the classic one, issues, right? Our so-called repo of everything that happens within our Atlassian instance, right? So, so far we know that there are two popular modes. One is basic, where you have all these filters that you can choose from, the standard grid view. This used to be a little different. Of late, they've changed this to look much better. And the second mode is JQL, which is Jira query language. Many of you are aware, quite complex, and it's very deep if you want to have complex queries to search to issues. Essentially, either you're using basic or JQL mode. Essentially, what it does is creates a subset of issues from a superset to present based on certain criteria that you give in form of query language or in form of basic filters, right? So either you are using this or it doesn't matter in the outcome of this. It is only a matter of, because at times it's a bit tough task to find all the filters in basic. And if you are already comfortable with a query language, JQL closely resembles other query languages. So if you are familiar, and it's not tough to know if you are not aware. So it's quite natural in that sense, but it still has a particular syntax which is not a natural language. If you know it, JQL can also give you fantastic results in terms of your issue searches. For now, let's stay in JQL. Doesn't matter whether you're in basic or JQL, but you see this nifty small thing here, AI, that does the trick. The moment you click it, you will see that depending on the mode you were, I was in JQL, so I have this simple prompt here for AI. Now let's start with a very simple prompt. Okay, now this has completely transformed the way people search, because nowadays we have all started searching using natural language. So the magic behind this is again the same thing. You as a user don't want to get into the mumbo jumbo of selecting filters from basic or knowing the right syntax of JQL. All you are saying is, in my natural language, I'm asking Jira to present me a subset of the issues from the overall list, right? So I'll simply say all done issues. Let's see what it says. Quite natural language. I don't even need to know the context. As simple as that. Okay, within seconds it will just go through everywhere. And currently I had two projects. If I had any done issue in the other project, it will show me that also. If you want to be very specific, then you can always include your project key as well in this prompt, and you'll be done. In the background, what it does is, this is your prompt in the background because your mode was JQL when you started this. It also shows you the relative JQL for that, right? So what this helps you is, if you want to learn JQL, this is the best way. You write it in natural language, let it populate JQL for you, and then in some time probably you'll start using both of them interchangeably. Sometimes JQL, sometimes AI. Yeah, so a nice way to do that. If you're done with this, you can always say go. As I said, you can save this as a filter which is known to you. Thumbs up, thumbs down, everything as usual. But let's go a little more deeper. I say all. I don't want to say all done issues. I say all stories. It'll soon start getting more complicated. As you see right now, it's now giving me all stories. And now you see that because I said all stories and did not give the context of the project, it is now fetching the stories from other projects also, right? All the stories. Because I said all stories, no epics, no defects. Okay. Now I want to be a little more specific about the project. So I can simply say, and I can name the project also. If I know the key, it's even better. There you go. The stories from the poker are gone now. So now it understands. You can see the related JQL also. Project equals to this, and issue type equals to story. I say all stories in project ECA. Let's go a little further, which are in the current sprint. There you go. Now let's just check. These are like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So let's see if that's what we are talking about. And indeed, you'll see all of those stories in the current sprint. So it automatically filters, processes your natural language. You don't even need to know the context. Here, if you see, this is what it says in terms of JQL. But you don't, if you didn't know this context or the syntax, it would be difficult for you to get to all the stories within the current sprint. But if you just know how to converse using your natural language, AI will take care of the rest. We go a little further, which are in the current sprint and are assigned to, let's say the other way around, and are not assigned to anyone, right? Because it's a current sprint and I want to see that which are the issues which are not assigned to anybody. You don't have to write not assigned to anyone, just not assigned will do the trick. So as you would expect, you just give me two. So within instant, just by conversing in my natural language, I get to a state of subset of issues which are not assigned. I, as a product owner or somebody as a part of the team, can take an action and can do something because it's already in the sprint and we need to do something on this. Yeah? Let's reset this and let's write something else. If I want to accept it, you can always close this, go, anything will do, right? Let's say all issues in project ECA which are say assigned to Maya. We had one user Maya, right? Let's say Maya is going on leave next week. So we say that okay, all projects in ECA, and you can see it has already identified the assignee Maya. You can see all of them are Maya. Now I want to know, because this sprint is ending next week and Maya is going on vacation next week, and there may be some issues in the current sprint which are assigned to her, which may require some backup. Yep. So we may need to fill that up. Assigned to Maya, and or no, let's not write it here, which are in current sprint and are assigned to Maya, because they may need immediate attention, right? So if you look at this one, she's already working on one, and there are two that she has not picked up. This two, primarily number 7 and 10, that we saw already that it's part of the current sprint, they may need something to be worked upon, as you can see. And now I may also like to see that since she is going on vacation, the context becomes a little wider for me. because she's going for an emergency and we're not sure when will she be back. So I say all issues in this project which are assigned to Maya and are due next week, for example. Okay. Oh, okay. Basically, it is still showing me all of this, which is correct. As you can see, okay, August 9, probably not as we would have liked to, but the other two are still relevant. Sometimes it may throw in some surprises. This ideally should not have come in because this will still fall in the current week, or maybe it's considering Monday to Friday. Even then, this would still come in this week, but that's something which still needs an improvement. Essentially, what it does is that it gives me a subset of the issues which I need to take care of when somebody is moving out. Now, it is common as well as uncommon because if you're following a Scrum flow, if you're following iterations, then you may or may not have due dates. If you're following Kanban, you may still have due dates. And in those cases, it becomes very vital to know when somebody is going off because it's not iteration to iteration that you are doing. You're just doing as because it's a continuous flow of work. That is when it becomes very essential for you to know that which are the issues due by which date, tagged with certain individual who is not going to be available. Anything that you can think of, I can say all defect. Oh no, I can't say defects. Yeah, why I can't say defects? Any idea? That's not the keyword that Atlassian understands, right? Atlassian understands them as bugs. So even though I may use bugs or defects interchangeably, but it may or may not be able to identify that as an issue type. This is again, if the other project had bugs, it would automatically take those also. And as a somebody as a leader, if I do not want to be project specific and I just want to know all the bugs across the projects, I can have a filter, I can have a search prompt like that, which I can save as a filter, and you know that you can use the filter also in your dashboard widgets. So then I can have a dashboard widget which just shows me the status of all the bugs, right? So I do the search prompt across the project, I get it, and then using issue statistics widget on the dashboard, I can bifurcate them project wise and can also look at the status of all those bug fixes, right? There is a lot more that you can do within issue search. Anything and everything that is related to one thing that you should keep in mind is that Atlassian is still not smart enough. I won't say smart enough, they haven't gone that way, but it currently limits searching through any fields which are related to issues. When it comes to project names or project types like company managed or team managed, it it doesn't identify that. And so anything which is project specific, those parameters are still not there. But anything which is an issue parameter, which is an issue field, you'll be able to search through any of those.
How about the dependency, Parag?
How about the
Dependencies?
dependencies meaning?
Like if you would like to understand that, let's say if the first ticket or the second ticket or any tickets has a dependency on this, is there any way that this intelligence can help to identify the dependencies and what is the due date for those?
Not in my knowledge yet.
Okay.
I had tried it long back, but at that time it didn't happen, and I have not come across that use case. So, in my best belief, no. As
Okay.
yet, no.
Okay. And is this available in like, is this available in Confluence too, or is this only
You
limited to?
mean Atlassian Intelligence?
Yes.
Very much. In fact, we should have a session separately because Atlassian Intelligence in Confluence is even more great. You know,
We will have that
it's
session.
amazing.
That's what, yeah, the next one, we have to, coordinate and I will set it out.
It is amazing. In Confluence, it's
Yeah,
even super duper than Jira, to be honest. So
Yeah. I
we'll have
think
some
yeah.
session on that.
Yeah,
we'll
we are at
have,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
We should probably have for Bitbucket too in someday if the future permits, because then we
yeah,
can go through the entire pipeline flow. Okay, the entire
right.
DevOps flow with Bitbucket in. So you have
We'll do
Jira for
that.
your issue management, you have
Yeah,
Confluence for your documentation.
perfect.
By directional integration of Jira and Confluence, with Atlassian Intelligence, and then also using Atlassian Intelligence in combination with Bitbucket to just have your entire pipeline flow smoothly. It's very interesting, but it's quite deep. So this is first step. Uh, Hopefully, we'll have many more sessions around this future.
Hey, Dipti, just one. I know that we are at time. Just last question, and I just I have very hypothetical question. It could be probably not a kind of good fit question here, but do you see, Parag, any difference? I mean, I'm sure that there might be a difference, but just my understanding is uh, Microsoft Copilot,
Hmm.
right? Do you see any overlap between these two when it comes to Jira and Confluence?
I see more of synergy than overlap, to be honest. Because if you've been using Copilot, Copilot is majorly for developers as they are writing
True.
the code in their IDEs. The Copilot sits with them and then helps them write the code more efficiently, more beautifully. So the
Mm-hmm.
Copilot, just as the name suggests, that while you are engineering something and you as a pilot are doing it, and you need somebody's help to always guide you in the right direction, that is where Copilot comes. So if you are using uh, what is it called, visual code, right, for
Mm-hmm.
that most developers use nowadays, you just use Copilot into that. You start your syntax, and Copilot will start assisting you in many ways. It's more developer centric. This is more project management centric because the tools are different,
Yeah,
so
true, true.
yeah.
Because just to give you an, because I'm basically we are piloting the co-pilot now,
Okay,
and we are just trying to like identify some of the use cases how we can leverage the existing tool for, let's say, to do some magic at the story like backlog level, like the way that we
absolutely.
just yeah.
So
So
Copilot can be used in DevOps. For that, you'll have to go on to Azure DevOps side,
exactly.
rather than on the Jira side, right? Because for Jira, it's an entire Atlassian suite. If you want to leverage the capabilities of Copilot fully and fully integrated end to end, where your tech stack is also on the Microsoft side, then I think the best way, and if you're using Visual Code for that matter, then you can have end to end integration of Copilot right from within your IDE all the way to your DevOps boards.
Yeah, yeah, right. Thank you. Thanks, Parag.
One last thing, I'll take 5 minutes. I know we are all overshooting, but this is one very important feature that none of us should miss out. That's automation, right? We are all fan of automation. We want computers and machines to do most of the stuff that we want, that we are doing. And Atlassian has taken some firm steps regarding that, and Atlassian Intelligence is making things easier. At first, when you get to automation screen, it might look very daunting. Now, but you head to template. Don't worry about the existing templates. Again, you just start in your natural language processing. So let's say if I want to create an automation rule that, remember I said that Rishi is our taster, for example. I just want a simple rule for now, right? That whenever some ticket moves into ready for test, I don't need to manually assign it to Rishi. I just want the workflow to take care of that. Now, I could very well do that by creating a rule separately also. But natural language, why should I not leverage it? So when an issue transitions to say, then you just give the state, mm, assign it to Rishi. Once you write this in your AI prompt, remember that your screen may look a little different depending on where did you come from in the automation screen. So ensure that you are in template because that's where you get this AI prompt. Right? And with that, you just say preview rule. You should always do that before you finalize that rule. And let's see what it does. It says when issue transition to ready for test, assign the issue to da 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 da. I'll say go ahead and turn on the rule. It is as simple as that. It has understood what I meant to say, what I want to accomplish. I can make it as complicated as I want to. It still does not have nested branching level of automation rules that it can do, but most of the complex rules that you will come across and you'll have the need about, most of them can be done by using natural language processing. So now coming back to my board, let's go into my active sprint. And what did I say? I said that when an issue moves to ready for test, right? So let's just, not this one, let's say Maya is working on something, and let's say Maya moves something to ready for test. Okay, just to save time. Of course, it will automatically reflect when the rule runs, but I'll just refresh. for the sake of time here. There you go. It has automatically understood. The rule has automatically run. The issue is now assigned to Rishi. And you know that there is a notification system inbuilt within Jira that when somebody gets assigned to an issue, it's an automatic notification that the person will be notified that so Rishi doesn't have to always be on the board. The moment something drops into ready for test, it gets assigned to him. The moment it gets assigned to him, notification will fire, and he'll know that there is something for him to pick up. Right? As I said, that you can make it as complex as you want. You want that when something from ready for test moves back to do. So Rishi, for example, tests this, finds some comments, some bugs, and puts in some comments within the story and moves the story back to do. And you want that when something like that happens, product owner should be the first one who should see that. You can also create a rule for that. You just say, this time you make it a little more complicated and say that when the issue transitions from ready for test to do, because now you want that way, then only assign it to product owner. Okay? So sky is the limit. Okay? So four main areas: generate content, transform content, issue search, and automation. Premium is something which you get free for 30 days. My sincere request that just dive in. Now you know how to have test users at least. There is a way to get test data also. I won't demo it here, but I'll leave it up to you. There is a nice way built in Jira to get test data also. So those are the two things that anybody really needs: users and data to play around with this feature. So by all means, go ahead and do that. Use these features. Get yourself accustomed to that, because moving forward, I am pretty sure that as a generation, we are going to use more and more of these features over manual work. That's where I rest my case.
Hey, hi, Parag. I have one
Questions?
question.
Sure.
You said that the 30 days premium is available to, do some, like test on this platform, especially the beta version. Is it like the current, the 10 users license, which is what we have? Can that be upgraded for the premium for 30 days? And what is the maximum?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Right.
I
So
just have to just
for
go and
30
change
days,
that.
it's no cost.
Okay.
Okay, so and just in case, depending on your tier, if it does not allow you to directly move to premium, you could always first change from free tier to standard and immediately from standard to premium.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, play around with that for 30 days and just ensure that you revert your plan back to free tier or whichever the other tier before that time limit, so that you don't end up unnecessarily paying off or Atlassian alarming you. Okay, I am open for questions if there are any. I hope that
Uh,
you would have got some knowledge today.
I do have one, Parag. Thank
Please,
you.
please, Ajay.
First of all, thank you for the session. Like for example, you have set up the automation to assign the testers. Like once the tester is done and he want to assign back to the developer, the
Mhm.
original developer,
Mhm.
so that he can deploy it. So can we automate that as well?
Of course, why not? The only thing is that when the tester is done, there has to be some event associated notifying this interface that the tester is done. Whether it could be in form of state change, because how would the interface know that the tester is done, right? So you may have, it's not uncommon for, like in our project, what we do is that when tester is done, it obviously goes to acceptance, and when it is, then the acceptance is done, then it goes to ready to deploy. So there is a column and a status specifically for that. Now the moment it transitions to ready to deploy, you can always tag around the rule uh, through automation that the moment it happens, it just gets assigned back to the developers. But rather than assigning it to the developers, I'll prefer that you use status and columns, which is a much better way for you to filter all the issues which are ready to deploy.
I do,
You'll
I
get
do
better
have
results.
I do have that status as ready to deploy and column as well with the same name. But
Perfect.
I want the ownership also of the respective developers because
Then fine. Then fine. So now you can also do something like this. It's a complex rule, so we'll not write it here, but I'll give you the idea. What you can do is, so every issue has an original assignee. Okay. So as a tester, I can do a rule that the moment I change the status to ready to deploy or something else, it automatically picks the previous assignee which who was there before it jumped into my status and my name and automatically assigns back to that person. So there is a syntax available for that.
Sure, I'll try. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And by any chance, if you are using your repo in combination with this, whether it is GitHub or it is Bitbucket, you can automate so many things. So for example, a lot of times as developers, we move the ticket to review or we raise the PR, but we forgot to change the status to review and push the ticket to review. Now, if you have this bidirectional integration with your repo, the moment you raise a pull request, if it already has the reference of the Jira ticket, then as soon as the pull request is raised through automation, you can ensure that the ticket automatically moves to review column and status. And many other things that you want to do. When the pull request gets merged, you want that to be moved to ready for test. So there is an automation rule for that as well. That just requires a bit of bidirectional integration with your repo. Cool. Any more questions? Do we have anything in the chat?
I have just one question, Parag. This is Sairam
Uh-huh.
here. Is this
Sure.
bidirectional with Bitbucket integration? Is it also available under automation?
It is.
Oh,
I'll just show you. We'll not write the rule, but I'll just show you. I'll leave it up to you to explore, but I'll just show you so that you get an idea where to look for at least. Of course, you can have your own here, but if I simply say write something here, pull, will probably help me. So see, when a pull request is merged, when a pull request is created, all of these are available. And likewise, if you're using Bitbucket as a repo, you can understand it's also a Atlassian product. You have even better integration. But even if you're, regardless, even if you're using GitHub, GitLab, anything, you'll have an integration with those repos as well.
okay. Thank you.
All right, over to you, Dikshit. I am done.
Cool. So, thank you very much, Parag. Session is wonderful. You can see the chat is filled with appreciation, and you can
My
stop
pleasure.
sharing screen so that you can read your check, peacefully.
No
And
problem.
yeah, and you can stop sharing your screen.
Okay, sure. Let me do that. Yes,
Yeah,
there we go.
so that you can read all the chat. And to everyone, you can stay muted, but if you would like, we can take a group photo. So please turn on the camera and let's take a group photo. And this is really wonderful. I'll stop the recording, and the recording will be available on our event page itself. So you don't need to go and search it from anywhere.